First of all, welcome to the farm project. And actually, we started 2 years ago in Cologne to set it up, and we did some research on kitchens. And I found out that it's really everything is turning more and more into this kind of international minimal showroom design, which is always quite slick. And so I thought it is beautiful when you have minimal in the world, but at the same time the world becomes more complex. And so I wanted to find something like a space where we really celebrate the complexity of life. Let's go inside. Now we're inside, and what I think is always really important with the kitchen is that you see everything. For example, I made this work table here. You have the oven, the stove, underneath. Then you have the marble, because the marble is a very nice material. I don't see marble as a luxury product. I see it's a very necessary piece because it ages very well, and these days we talk about sustainability. And it's beautiful, and when you cut meat or you bake it's always a really good surface to have it. Then I combine it with simple, cheap plywood because I love the texture of plywood. It's very all about the senses. And I found these buckets, and then I thought it's so nice when you have, for example, I go around. These are the fittings then from Dormrad, and this was always the idea, creating, this is a luxury product, but create a kind of a context for it where it really makes sense as well. And I always loved, when you have this possibility now, you can shower the plants, so it is something which is actually needed, because what's good when you want to make an egg or you want to do something, it's always great when you touch it and you have the mint and you have all these kind of different plants, and they have smell, and directly you feel it when you come in the morning. For example, everybody knows this, you drink a coffee because you like the smell of the coffee, and this is the same thing with cooking. Then of course it is a huge working table, so you have to have this kind of rail going around. So I thought this is really nice, and I wanted to have it bulky, not too design. And so because you can have the towels you need all the time. And what I like is always about the garbage bags. They're very cheap and simple. You just put them here and they work, and when they're full you just throw them out. And at the same time, when you come from the market, you buy your carrots, whatever, you store them directly underneath. So it's really about a huge depot, which leads me to the next big piece, which is this huge shelf I found. And I just give it a little touch in mint color, so to pop it up a little bit. And then I just put as well this very cheap wood on it. And because I like it, these baskets, I found them in a Chinese place, and they're really ridiculous cheap. It's really nothing. But it's great when you buy these apples, for example, or you have here all these wonderful things. All these products. So this is so nice when you see them, because then actually you start using them. Imagine everything is hidden with a slick white wall. It looks nice, a white wall, but I think we did this already. We have this. And what I always like again is I see these ceramics and I never like them. And I think this is the thing, maybe the nightmare we have with our grandmas and so, that, but we live in the time. So we are looking forward, we live from the future, but we have a past, we have our roots. And I think these days it's very much about transforming. Our example, while we got just here, so these kind of chain doors, everybody knows these tacky camping doors, and this is really, all these materials are from department stores. As well, they're cheap, you can buy them by the meter. And we're having, my wife and we have 3 kids, and so we asked them as well to give us the toys, So, and I like this as well, because this is as well one of the reasons I wanted to make my kids understand that food is not just coming from the supermarket. It's really, within the logistics systems. You need a supermarket, of course, but at the same time, they should really understand we're talking about live animals, and when they eat beef, it comes somehow an animal must have killed for that. Actually, I don't want to make this in a statement for cruelty or so, because I really love animals, and of course I eat them, but this is a kind of reality I'd like to face. But at least what I can do is I can come up with kind of respect. And I think actually when we're more aware with the animals, I think maybe we eat less meat, maybe. Because of course you have a relation. I can't really imagine killing that pig and eating it, so I just couldn't do it. And but it's so nice to see it, as well with the chicken and the rabbits, because it is something that you realize there's wonderful creatures, and of course they're part of the food industry. And I was thinking as well, what does it mean? Everybody talks about recycling these days. I think recycling, they come up with incredible high-tech materials and high-tech industry who's able to come up with recycled materials, but at the same time recycling is for me a kind of an attitude, which means you go back in the basement and get out the stuff you bought maybe 10 years ago, and you bring it up and then you combine it. For example, these skulls. I mean, I have this skull, used this 2 years ago already, but all the skulls right now, they're so fashioned, not only through Damien Hirst, but they become very fashionable. So when I saw it, when I used this, for me it was like a kind of a game, you know. So you have these things I don't like, very kitschy, but then you put a cool thing to it. And this is actually what I like as well with this whole piece. You know, this is I found this grid in Cologne, and in the beginning I didn't really know what it would be later on. And I found these containers from Muji, and I put them with a stripe, going back to the disasters as well, because then you have to improvise. And this has as well a link, a relation to cooking, because a good chef, my wife is a good chef, and she knows to improvise. And the idea of improvising, this is actually an interesting thought for designing something new. And that's why I used this industrial fitting. I gave them in the color, but I combined this with these kitschy ceramics, you know. And it works because you have this hose here, and it's movable. It's movable. And I don't know if it's tacky or it's modern. I think it's just, to me it feels very now. And I like that we have these kind of acid colors, for example, like the stable, the fence, because I do not want it to go nostalgic, not at all. I'm completely contemporary and looking forward to change things. So, but I like the idea that you have the stable, you have the animals in there, and at the same time you feel it's now. So it is like giving urban farming a contemporary twist. Another thing which is for me very important is coming back to the shelf. Everything becomes more global, so we're talking about internationality, globalization, and at the same time we have to understand globalization only functions because of the regions, so we have to respect the regions. So for example, in Germany, when we have shown the farm for the first time, we had in the aquarium, we had the Karpfen, the German big fishes. In Italy, we have shown Forellen, very elegant fishes, but it was important, you can actually eat these fish. So therefore we have in America right now, here in Miami, we took the red snapper. And so even just the aquariums with the fishes, because normally people put their goldfish, something like this. And what I like is that you really see the archaic beauty actually of a fish. And this is as well food. And when you go through the shelves, for example, because I wasn't allowed to bring food into the States, so I spent 1 or 2 days in supermarkets and try to find products where they show a little bit, tell us a little bit about the American culture. And then it becomes like a statement about global food, because here, for example, you have the Saint-Emilion Grand Cru. Of course, the French are very proud of that, but I like the fact that you have cornflakes on top of it. You know, this is very American and very mass product, and this is very unique. And at the same time, now I can ask you, what has more value? And I think both, because in the morning it's fantastic to have your cornflakes and the coffee, and in the evening you have a Saint-Emilion. And I like the fact that you have this kind of arrangement, because we all talk about what does that mean these days, premium design, luxury design, limited editions and all these things. In the end it is something, what you made out of it. And I think this is maybe an artistic point of view, that you have to carry on an attitude. And this makes it interesting, because then you reveal a certain, maybe a certain charisma or character to the project. So coming back now to the ladder, which I think is this amazing major piece within the installation. You see, some people don't like it when you combine iron steel with copper, you know, they don't like it, they freak out actually, the hardcore minimalists. And again, it's not a criticism, it's just that I want to make that step which helps us to free ourselves from certain design conditions. And I thought about these wonderful still life paintings from Vermeer from the last century, for example, and putting them into reality. So you have the leather, you put all these hooks from the butcher, and then you combine them. You have the stuffed animals, and then here it was really great. We found a place they prepared for us this Chinese goose, the duck, and I think it's so wonderful to see this, because actually they taste good. You like to eat them, and they create an incredible atmosphere. And maybe it is as well a bit horrific for the people, but at the same time, for example, you see the net with the eggs in there. I think this is just like, you know, it's just wonderful. I think it's really, really wonderful, because you really appreciate what the world is able to deliver.